now, all right, we're going to resume recording. Do I have your permission to record you?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Now, here we are. Okay, now, remember how we didn't read anything in the beginning, right? We didn't read anything. But what we're going to do is we're going to look at study 1, the question, right? And we now have gone up and understood that this says current, right? The electric current would most likely have equaled 8 if the velocity had been, right? And they give you choices of the velocity, right? 0.05, 0.25, 0.4, 0.5. Now, over here in study 1, okay, here is study 1. They told you to go study 1, right? Study 1, go here, right? Okay. They gave you a table. All right. Now, you're going to save all that time at 5 minutes, right, by not reading all that stuff. And you're going to make some sense of this combination, right? Almost like when you were in middle school or grade school, like if there's a square peg, do you put it into the round hole? No, you put it into the square, right? Okay, the square peg goes in the square, right? Okay, so we're just saying that if the current was 8, right? Over here it's 8. If the current's 8, okay, then what is V? Okay, and you see V, velocity, goes from 0.1 to 0.2 to 0.3, corresponding to these currents, okay? Now, can you figure out the answer? Yeah. You can? What is the answer?
Probably.
Okay, let's see. Now, keep your cortisol levels low. All right?
Yep.
Okay.
It would be D. It would be 5.
Wow. Okay, so first of all, that is the correct answer. That is the correct answer. And did you need to read all that stuff in the beginning?
No.
Okay, so you've stayed calm, right? But now if you run into someone like me, I've been working with you for a while, and so you trust me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if I tell you to do something, you're going to trust me to do it. But normally, you would read that stuff, right? You'd go up here and say, yeah, well, let me study this, right? Let me understand this. And remember, we did the timing up here, and it said that you only had 35 minutes, right? 40 questions, 7 passages, 5 minutes a passage, right? So if you spent any time on this, the key is that medically speaking, right? So medically speaking, it would raise your cholesterol, your cortisol levels, right? Hopefully it doesn't touch your cholesterol, but it'll raise your cortisol level and you become nervous and now you're shaking and then you approach this question, right? Okay. But now instead you're going to be calm, right? You're going to be calm. You're looking at this question and you're going to say, oh, I could do this, right? Okay, now how come you didn't pick A or B? Why not?
I just did math in my head.
Did you have to do the math or just looked at this and said, like, what? 0.05, right? That's up above 1, right? Okay.
Anyway. That's
right. Right? That's above trial 1, right? That's not even where it begins, so we can strike out A, right?
Yeah.
Okay, B, 0.25. That's between 2 and 3, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then 2 and 3 is 3.2 and 4.8. That's not what they're asking you, right? So you know why, right? Brilliant. You got answer D because you've been trained to look at things. You found the Pfizer ingredients in the vaccine, right? You found that. Mm-hmm. Okay, now, so you get the confidence. You struck out 50% of the answers. Now, we're left with C and D. Drum roll. Why did you not pick 0.4? Ooh, because 0.4 is, could be over here, right?
Yeah, that's where I did the math.
Ah, that's where you did the math, right?
0.6 each time. Good enough equaled 8. So then I did it by 5, which equaled 8.
Exactly, right? Okay. So you were very, very precise and accurate, right? But could you have done it by looking at just a gap, right? So it gaps up by, every gap, right? And this gap, right, these gaps, would it get me to 8? That's a much bigger jump, right?
Yeah.
And so you could even eyeball it without actually doing the delta. Because calculations, you're not allowed a calculator on the science section, right?
Yeah.
No calculator. And let's go back up to the instructions. Just make sure that we got this burned in your head, right? So does it say, right? You see how it says the big knot right here? Okay?
Yeah.
All right. You are not permitted to use a calculator on this test. Mm-hmm. All right. So you can't use a calculator. Now, so some kids, right, when they start doing that delta, that adds to their cortisol levels. and they become more nervous. And it's not just in that question you get right, but it's in subsequent questions that your cortisol level builds up that you will then start seeing things that weren't there.
Yeah.
All right, and it's that nervousness that brings the score down. Now, are you confident, right, of question 1, right? Okay,
Yes.
we are now going to look at question 2, all right? In study 2, now, if it says in study 2, would you go to study 1?
No.
Okay, good. That's really important. Remember, this is just the high school exam, okay? In study 2, you're going to go down here, right? Make sure you correlate. A lot of kids, when their cortisol gets high, they're going over here. And then maybe they realize, right? Maybe they realize. But they've used a lot of time, and it's a time test, right? As the length of the conducting rod is increased, you understand what that means? As it gets longer, right? You want to change it to, longer. What happens to the electrical current? Now, you know what that is. That's I, right? That's the italicized I, right? What happens if the length increases, okay, longer, right? What happens to the I? And they're asking you to pick an answer.
Yeah, and it obviously gets stronger, it increases.
Oh, obviously increases. So what answer is that?
That increases only, which would be F.
Okay. Is that hard?
No.
No. But see, your brain and your cortisol levels are low right now. That's why it's not hard. It's not difficult, right? But imagine if you were confused, right? You didn't know what this is, right? There's a problem, right? There's the problem, right? Keep yourself calm, cortisol levels low. Don't waste time on reading all that junk, right, in the beginning, right? And your cortisol levels are low. I'm showing you how to keep yourself, your heart rate calm, your abilities calm so you can read. I know you can read. You know you can read, right?
Yes.
But you are going to be tired. You're going to be exhausted. You're going to be in the room with other people, and you're going to be competing against 2 million kids in the nation, right? In the country, in the world. Some people take this outside of the country, and you're going to score in the very top 1,000. How are you going to do that, right? Be calm. Be calm. You got it?
Yes.
And that is the secret behind how to do these things. That's it. All right. Now let's try question 3. Let's say we're not convinced. Question 3. In study 3, now where would you go look in study 3? Is anything here?
No.
Okay. Now notice during the test, look at how they spaced this. All right. It's almost like a conspiracy. Why did they put study 3 down below, right? Okay. But it is down here. Okay. So you have to actually make this correlation from here and draw your mental picture down here. Okay. Right. Now they said in study 3, I would most likely, you're not going to read that as I, right? Okay. The electrical current would most likely equal 5.6 milliamps if you took physics and electrical. If B, what the heck is B? Right? So you're going to, remember what I showed you, is you go up to the key, right? We're going to look for B, right? We're going to look for B. Right, here's B. Now, do you see that B says what?
Magnetic field.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the strength of the field, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Strength of the magnet. Okay. So we can go down here, staying calm. All right. Here we go. Study 3. The current, electric current, would most likely have equaled 5.6 if the magnet strength had equaled which of the following. Okay. So now we go down here and we look at this and say, oh, this is the magnetic field strength. This is the current, right? Okay. So now they said 5.6. Where is 5.6 here?
In between. It's B. The answer is B.
The answer is B. Oh my gosh. I got to be careful not to mention your name because I want this to be, right? To be blocked, right? So no one knows, right? So this is, I want your anonymity preserved, right? Okay. Preserve your anonymity. But look at that delivery. Have you ever done this test before?
This section of the test? No.
Yeah. No, we have never done this section of the test, right? Okay. Okay. So how are you able to get 3 in a row right?
Just, I don't know. Like you said, just staying calm, looking, crossing out answers that just don't make sense.
Right. Okay. So that's all I need you to do. Look at answer D, right? 1.1. Do you know why that answer is there? You know why it's there? Because kids have picked that answer.
I can't see why.
Well, you can't see why now because you didn't go through it, right? The way they went through it.
Yeah.
They went through the mousetrap, right? The way It's been set up. You didn't go through it the same way, right? You did it like inside out, backwards, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you kept your what low? Kept your...
I forgot what you called it.
You forgot what it's called. Okay, right. It's called your cortisol level, okay?
Cortisol, yeah. Cortisol.
Which is also your stress level, right? You kept your stress level low. And it's not stressful, right? But could you imagine, right, without training, or even if you didn't trust me, and I told you to do this, this is your life, this is your life. You bombed this test, right? This is the ACT, SAT, right? This is what gets you into college. And you're going to trust a guy who tells you to skip the entire section, right? And just keep your stress level. In fact, skipping that section should raise your stress levels high, right?
Yeah.
Right? But do you trust me?
Yes, I do trust.
Why do you trust me?
Because we've created some sort of connection over the last few months.
Right.
Multiple months actually that we've been together.
Right. We've been together, right? But why haven't we done this? Why are we putting this section last? Right? You want to know why? Because to tell you to do this requires a lot of trust. All right. It's easy, right? But you got to trust me. Right? And now that we did the English first, right? The grammar section. We did the math section. Then we did the reading, right? We did it in a sequence of trust building. Each section requires more and more trust. How did I show you how to do the reading section? Let's go to the reading section and just remind ourselves. Okay, this is the reading section. Okay, now, let's look at the timing on the reading section. You remember reading this passage, right? Santiago and the girl, right? Okay, good. So now notice here, there are 4 passages in this test. You're not going to read the instructions when you actually take this, right? No, you're not going to waste time reading these, right? Because you know the instructions, right? You've seen this many times. This is an actual test, right? In fact, this test, right? Let's go look at the date of this test. We're going to go to the date of this test. This test was in 2006 to 2007. How many years ago was that? That was a lot of years ago. Just a lot is good, right? Like 18 years ago, right?
Yeah.
No, not 18. I can't do it. 16 years. 16 years. That's almost as old as you, right? You're 17, right? Are you 17?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So it's almost as old as you. Okay. 1 year younger than you are. Okay. And then so 16 years ago, people took this as an actual test. And what did I tell you to do during this? 4 passages. So 4 into 35, right? 9 times 4 is 36, right? So 9 times 4 is 36. So that's 9 minutes a passage. But 9 times 4 would give you overtime by a minute. So it's really 8 something, right? 8 times 4 is 32. So somewhere between 8 and 9 minutes, you've got to read this thing and answer how many questions? 10 questions, right? See that? 10 questions. All right. So if you're not calm, what will happen, right? And did I tell you some technique here of how to do this?
I'm sure you did. What do you think? Oh, yes. Go to the lines that the questions are asking you to go to first.
Okay. All right. Go do those first, right? But did I tell you to read every question on this? No. Okay. Do you know there are books out there that say, in order to understand what you're reading, you should read every question. Then read the top. What would happen if you did that? It would be time, right? And your what levels would be high? Cortisol. Can you say that again? Cortisol. All right. So your cortisol levels will be high. And what does cortisol do? It raises your
stress.
It raises your stress. And as a consequence, it will lower your score because what are you going to do? You're going to read something that didn't make any sense, right?
Yeah.
And that is the essence. But again, it would require trust. It would require trust. Now, how do we build trust? Go to these questions, right? These questions, math. Math is how we build trust, right? Didn't we build trust with math? Yeah. Didn't we build trust with speed of math? Look at this one, right? See, there's a lot of reading here, right? You see this question? This question requires, what is it saying? Now, when there's more than 3 lines, what did we do?
Sorry, what did you say?
When there's more than 3 lines in a math question, what do we do? What would we do when there are more than 3 lines? Read the question.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Right? Oh, yeah. You're so used to it now, it's hard to even share that, right? So this is, what is the question here saying?
The question here is asking what is the area of the trapezoid?
Okay. What is the area of a trapezoid, right? Okay, in square meters. Now, did they give it to you in meters?
No.
No?
Did they give us in meters?
Okay. So you can ignore the squaring of the meters because there's no unit conversion, right? Okay. There's 5 choices, 20% chance of getting it right? Okay. Now, you can do it by adding all the areas of the triangle, of the rectangle, and then the triangle, right? That's a lot of work with a lot of chance of mistakes. Or you can assume that this side, okay, this side, well, this is 5 here, right? So 5 plus 4 is 9. 9 plus 2 is 11, right? And 11 on this side and 5 on this side. If we added 1 to the side, it would be 6, meaning you'd subtract 1 from 11, making it 10, but they're not equal yet. You got to make them equal. So then you make it 7, and then this would be 9, and then you make it 8. Oh, and this is 8, right? So averaging faster would be 5 plus 11, 16 divided by 2 is 8, right? 8 times 3, multiplied by the perpendicular right angle. 8 times 3 is 24, and you could do this, and you didn't have to write anything on paper, right? The speed of what's being able to do this, that all trapezoids are actually rectangles, right? And how do you define the area of a rectangle? It is length times width, right? So you're basically averaging these two sides so they're the same and then multiplying by that. But it's every single question we built was factual, no guesswork, but doing it the fastest ways possible, right?
Yes.
Okay. And that built the trust. We did it with grammar. And when we did it with grammar and we did it with math, it built the trust that led to this. So, do I have your permission to close out the recording?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Closing out the recording.